Hey, it's Trey, and I'm on the highway, driving down Route 23 in eastern Kentucky. And as I'm moving by, there's all kinds of what I think would normally be fields. They just look like big lakes or ponds. There's been a lot of flooding here, and in many cases, when I set up interviews to come to Kentucky to meet with people, a lot of people were telling me that they wanted to counsel.
Lord have mercy, it's been a rough freaking weekend. Here's my dad's part of his house. I got up like 7 foot. All of his mobility devices, see all that? He's disabled. I just got those. The VA helped us put those in so he could get up and down. He's an 82 retired Vietnam vet, and now he's so disappointed because he just wants to go back to his house, and now I don't even know if he can get up the steps.
That's Amanda Hall, and we're talking in Louisa, Kentucky. It's right across the state line from West Virginia.
Where is everyone going to go? And especially, I get worried about people who have substance use disorder. This is such a traumatic event. If the places where they go to their meetings are flooded, or the places where they are in community with each other, it really worries me about relapse and what that looks like. And then if our service providers aren't able to get out in those communities, it really scares me.
I met Amanda on a recent reporting trip, and she's one of the many people I've spoken to about the Safer Kentucky Act, which took effect last year. The new law is intended as a hard-line measure against crime across the state. And Amanda is watching as people get caught up in the consequences of that comprehensive law. It boosted penalties for crimes like shoplifting and carjacking, and it added a new 3 strikes policy against violent offenders, so a person's third conviction lands them in prison for life.
It also put in statute harsher penalties for distributing fentanyl, especially when someone dies from the drug.
I think there was even a stand your ground.
Yeah, for shopkeepers. If you own a business and someone is in there taking things from your place of business, that you can almost use force to keep them there until the police come.
The bill even put the spotlight on a new crime in Kentucky, one that's gained traction across the nation. In a move that targets homeless encampments, it's now illegal to camp outside in certain places. About 150 cities in more than 30 states have passed or strengthened so-called camping bans. And the National Homelessness Law Center says another 40 are in the works. The Safer Kentucky Act has been law for about 9 months, and many people are cycling between the bill's 3 major domains: homelessness, substance use, and the criminal justice system. We returned recently to talk to people about how it's going. From West Virginia Public Broadcasting and PRX, this is Us and Them, the show that tells the stories about the things that divide America. I'm Trey Kay. Amanda Hall has a hard-won perspective on life in rural Kentucky. She now uses that knowledge to help shape the intersection of poverty, trauma, drug use, and crime on the national stage. My program, even though we come from West Virginia Public Broadcasting, most of our listeners are all around America. So, first of all, tell us where we are and explain how the substance use disorder problem, how that plays out here where we are. So where are we, and what's the substance use disorder problem like?
Yeah, so we're out in eastern Kentucky, Louisa to be exact, so deep central Appalachia. I'm from Martin County, Kentucky, which is the county over. It was where Lyndon B. Johnson made his proclamation about the war on poverty. Some of those pictures with folks from my hometown, from my community, are famous. At the time with me growing up, we had a stop sign. I mean, we didn't have a Walmart or a Kmart, any kind of store like that. We maybe had 2 restaurants for the whole county. You know, there's a lot of TV programs and books at this point about the opioid crisis and what happened. This community is ground zero for that. The coal industry was very heavy. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of replacements for those lost jobs. You had a lot of people who were hurt or disabled due to coal mining. This perfect storm of a lot of folks going through harsh economic situations, being scared of how they're going to feed or take care of their families. And then all of a sudden, there was Oxycontin.
In many ways, the story of Appalachia with regard to Oxycontin and opioids is a very similar story. You're nodding, yes. The reason that there's Oxycontin in the first place is because it's hard work, hard labor work. People have injuries that are dealing with pain management. And then I think after a while, it was people, I guess, got the euphoria from this. What do you know about that?
Yeah, so Oxycontin really hit big in my community when I was in high school, late 90s and early 2000s. So it was in everybody's medicine cabinet. It was being prescribed to people that were in car wrecks. It was being prescribed for everything and anything, any kind of ill. So I saw a lot of my friends recreationally trying it and then eventually growing a dependence. Myself, I suffered from severe anxiety. I grew up in a very low income community without transportation. And due to my anxiety, I started experimenting with, alcohol, some marijuana. And then at 16, I was in a mild car accident and was prescribed hydrocodone. Before I knew it, I could not live without it. After there was a lot of the prescriptions started halting, legislation around reporting, doctors started going away. So when Oxycontin started going away, I started using methamphetamines. And then I started using heroin. My life just kept getting harder and kept getting worse, and in and out of county jails with no kind of transition or help. I really blame myself for being incarcerated at the time. I didn't have medical insurance. One time, I literally sold my prescription drugs to pay to go to a detox, but I could only stay there a few days. That's all the money I had for, and that's as long as the program was. And so I got out and literally started using the next day. It was a rough time.
In 2010, when Amanda Hall was in her late teens, she received 2 5-year sentences for drug-related offenses. She was incarcerated at the Kentucky Correctional Institute for Women for 13 months.
I was separated from my family. I had 2 children. I had tried to quit over and over.
And my assumption is, based on all that I've learned over these past few years, it's like trying not to eat or trying to hold your breath or something like that. It's like after a while, that's all you can do, right?
No, 100%. I'd been using since I was a teenager, and I really did not know how to live life. I didn't know what to do. All of these horrible thoughts and trauma was still there and surfaced, and I did it to shut out those voices. A few days wasn't curing me for that, and I had no follow-up. So yeah, I went back to what I knew. Finally, after prison, after missing my baby's first steps, missing my son's kindergarten graduation, I finally was sent to a treatment center. Well, it was a recovery center and a halfway house. And I was there for 13 months. It was still 3.5 hours away from my family. I got sent to Louisville because we just didn't at the time have the resources here in Eastern Kentucky. And after 30 months, I finally got to see my kids again.
After incarceration and treatment, Amanda became a social worker trying to help others get back on their feet. She ended up running the very drug treatment and recovery center where she was once a client. And then she moved into policy. She spent 7 years as a lobbyist, urging state lawmakers to create safety nets for people cycling through addiction and jail. Amanda's advocacy work in Kentucky has led her to the national organization dream.org, where she is Senior Director of National Campaigns working to help shape national drug policy. Her life experience informs her career, and many of her friends are people she met in recovery or while advocating.
Our stories are a little different, but really, like the basis of them, the foundation is true. We needed help for a problem. We needed help for our mental health, and the system didn't provide that. Instead, they incarcerated us, threw us away, and now we're fighting for our communities.
Hall says the debates around the Safer Kentucky Act were tough to watch, particularly the ban on camping and public sleeping.
Knowing the county that we are in right now, we do not have a shelter. And just imagining, even in my community, the people that could end up in jail just for not having a roof. Literally, we just keep criminalizing and criminalizing and criminalizing. And what's happened in America, our prison rates has went up, but so have our overdose deaths.
What impact has the Safer Kentucky Act had on people dealing with substance use disorder in Eastern Kentucky?
In my community, and I would love to see some stats, here, because we are smaller, we have a smaller number of folks that are unhoused, but we do have people, and we have whole counties that don't have a shelter for people to go. I think it's going to take us a little while to look at that data and parse it out and see the impacts that it has. And I really look forward to seeing that in a horrible kind of way, because I really think the Safer Kentucky Act is harming Appalachians as well. I remember I got to a point in my life where I had burned a lot of bridges. I would get lucky and people would let me sleep on couches. I would go back to my mom's house. But sometimes people don't have that opportunity. And instead of finding them resources or, harm reduction or just being compassionate to them right now, we're throwing those people in jail. And we see so many studies that within the first 2 weeks of release from incarceration, some studies say 39 times more likely, some over 120 times more likely to die of an overdose within the first 2 weeks of being released from incarceration. So it's very scary for our, population who does have substance use disorder. It's very scary.
I know people in West Virginia who would say, well, that's social Darwinism. They've died, and so now they're not really in our society, and we don't have to worry about them anymore.
Well, I'm just really thankful. Maybe those people should come talk to me and my kids, who are so appreciative that they have their mom and that she's alive. That would have devastated my little babies. So these folks are somebody's mom or daughter or son or cousin or friend, and they matter. Their lives matter, especially when they're at their very lowest point. And I'm glad somebody, was there for me.
Hall has also co-founded Smart Justice Advocates, a group of Kentuckians whose lives have been affected by the legal system and now work to change it. But for now, she lives in a small Appalachian town where access to any social safety nets seems far away. You had mentioned, I guess there's a shelter?
Yeah, there's a shelter. In Ashland, There's the Salvation Army, there's a shelter there, and then there's a shelter and the Opportunity Center over in Paintsville, but no shelter here in Lawrence County.
So how far is Paintsville and the shelter there?
About 30 minutes drive.
So I'm making my way down the road. Johnson County is, I guess it's most famous for being the place, the birthplace of Loretta Lynn, the country music star, coal miner's daughter. And if you're looking at me, you're looking at country. So I'm here in Paintsville, Kentucky, and I'm standing in the parking lot of Altogether Opportunity Center. Now, if you were to look at this place, it basically looks like it's a hotel, a place that you would pull off maybe to get a room on a night if you're traveling, maybe kind of like a Red Roof Inn or maybe a Motel 6. Can you tell me your name?
George Ruck.
So, George, what brings you here to this place?
I've been struggling, financially, of course. I moved up here from Florida with my sister to do a general store, and it just fell through.
Were you sleeping on the streets?
Yeah, I had a tent. I was pretty comfortable. I had a fire and stuff going, but when the leaves fell, it was kind of hard to be hidden. I want something better. I'm on SSI right now, and I'm struggling, and it's not enough.
I guess one of the things I keep hearing is that, if somebody's in a situation that you're in, that if you're here, I guess, near Paintsville or anywhere in rural Kentucky, that in many ways, if you're homeless, that there's not that many shelters or facilities you're nodding your head, yes, there's not much.
No, there isn't. This is it here. They're not capable of housing too many people. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they stay stuck because they want to be stuck, I don't judge anybody, but, I'm trying to do something. I'm trying to get into housing. I'm trying to help people while I'm down too, and it keeps me going, but, it's tough.
I guess one last question I have for you, and I'm wondering how this law, it seems like it adds like another thing to deal with, like that I can't camp out because I might get a citation.
Yeah, I see why the law is in effect, but on the other hand, where are we supposed to go, if we don't have a place to live? And if you go to a campground or something, then you're gonna, every time you leave your camp, you're gonna be worried about your stuff being missing, so that costs money too. A lot of people don't collect SSI or disability or anything or work.
Do you feel like you're getting services here, like at this place, that are helping you get back on your feet?
I got a bed, I got a roof over my head. I stay active in the church and the groups. It helps me to keep busy, because just sitting around and not doing nothing is one of the worst things for someone to do. It's already down and out as it is. Everybody's great here. A lot of churches come in and bring us food, and the facility makes food for 4 or 5 days a week. So it helps out, because then you can save money. I'm trying to save enough to get a car going again, and if I don't get in housing first.
I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. Let me just ask you, do you have any questions for me?
No, not really. I just I hope people are aware that people out here aren't just living on the street because they want to. It's today's society, man. SSI isn't enough, and being disabled for so long, I couldn't work, so I couldn't get any kind of higher disability paycheck. There's a lot of people that just fall in hard times, man, and they need help, and they don't need to be pushed even further down the hole. It's tough, but I'll push through it.
That's George Ruck in Paintsville, Kentucky. When George asked what he's supposed to do without housing and no legal right to camp outside, I felt for him. I'm not sure what I would do either. Johnson County leaders recently approved a 90-day window to shut down the Opportunity Center in Paintsville. If the center closes, he'll have to relocate. After a break, more from the Bluegrass State.
The legislation that exists now is legislation that's existed in the past in other places and has been enforced in the past in other places. To think that struggles within our communities, especially around vulnerable populations, are not interrelated is naive at best, maliciously negligent at worst.
You're listening to Us and Them. This program is supported in part by a grant from the Just Trust.
Music lifts us up and brings us together, even when we can't get together in person. Mountain Stage brings you live performances on the air, online, and in our podcast. They remind you how it feels to be in a live audience listening to live music. This is Larry Gross, host of Mountain Stage. Find a link to our stations and our podcast online at mountainstage.org.
Hey, it's Trey, and this is Us and Them from PRX and West Virginia Public Broadcasting. Reality for people who live at the intersection between substance use disorder, homelessness, and the criminal justice system has gotten much more difficult in the past year. Last year, a new law took effect across Kentucky, the Safer Kentucky Act, and parts of the law are echoed in cities across the country. It has harsher penalties for multiple kinds of crime, and notably, created new punishments for sleeping and camping in public. Advocates say the policy brings unhoused people closer to resources, especially those who live with substance use disorder. Critics say it's doing just the opposite. So today, I'm returning to Louisville, Kentucky, to see how things are going.
This is the second time I've come to Louisville, and each time I haven't had like a really great plan as to who I would encounter, but it just seems like the people who are literally on the streets and the people who are helping them, they are in abundance. What I'm hoping to do is to check back in at whether or not actions that have been taken, if they've been effective.
I meet up with Jennifer Twyman, who's an organizer with Vocal Kentucky. It's a movement of low-income people dedicated to ending homelessness and mass incarceration. But even before we talk about the effects of the new law, I see that some people are dealing with a different rite of spring, flooding.
So can you tell me what has happened?
In our building? Yeah. We had the temperature over the weekend got cold enough that it affected our pipes, and a pipe actually came out of the fitting and sprayed water all over the building for the whole weekend. So we got here Monday morning, and there was probably 1.5 inches of standing water everywhere. Many people in the state of Kentucky have been flooded. There's tons of flood damage. I think 14 people have died from either flooding, and 2 locally in Louisville from hypothermia, our unhoused folks.
We're sitting in Twyman's office, where Isaac Chamberlain, a regular at Vocal, joins us.
I'm a homeless person and a member of Vocal community. I depend on Vocal for my medicine. That's why I come to get my Hep C treatment, to go over there to get my Hep C treatment today. This is a safe place for us. It's a safe environment for us. We don't have to fear about getting in fights, or we don't have to fear about the police or people harming us here. We come here because this is our safe place. It's a safe place for us.
Now, are you somebody who has issues with substance use disorder?
I do have issues with substance use disorder, but recently I just recently was released from prison to homelessness because the person I was staying with, my house burned down last year. So when I come home, I come down to a burned down house. I come home to nothing. Kentucky was just giving $35 million for homelessness services. Where's it going? I have 3 stage 3 cancers, and I'm on the streets, but I'm asking for help. I've medicated and everything like that. I'm doing everything that they say that I need to do, but our lawmakers won't help.
The way that I think I understand it from speaking to Jason Nemus, who's in the legislature, the idea is we want to do something about the homeless problem,
we don't want to just move them away
But that's what they're doing.
Wait, well, what? Say more.
They just move them. They call them relocations, and they're not relocating anybody.
Why are we a problem?
They-
How are we a problem when you want to do something about us, but you want to sit behind your fancy desk in Frankfurt? You don't want to come down and actually mingle with us and talk to us. You come down here to Vocal and talk to me, and then tell me that you want to try to fix my homeless problem. You come out of your fancy suit and come down here and put on our pants and put on some gloves and pick some trash up with me. Then we'll talk.
State Representative Jason Nemes and I did talk. First, a few months ago, for our initial piece on the Safer Kentucky Act. When we spoke more recently, he defended the bill's approach.
The advocates, while I have a great deal of respect for them, what they were doing is not working. There's an industry around homelessness. There's a lot of money involved, and they do not like change. I understand that. What we want is people to never get arrested, never go to jail. But that's up to them. And I know it's easy to demagogue it on the other side and say they made homelessness illegal. It's nothing further from the truth. But if you're going to break the law and you think you can just encamp anywhere and not get treatment when it's offered to you, that's not going to be allowed in Kentucky. When it's not emergency weather, housing is not primary. It is important, no doubt. What are the underlying reasons that the person is homeless? Is it jobs? Is it mental health? Is it substance abuse? That's what we have to treat. If they won't take the hug, we're going to get them in front of a judge and we're going to push them into treatment involuntarily. We're going to try our best to help our people.
While speaking with Jennifer, I relayed Nemes's argument that the Safer Kentucky Act increases support for people on the streets.
We called it the Suffer Kentucky Act. We didn't call it the Safer Kentucky Act because so many of our people are now suffering because of it.
I think what he said to me was, it's not that I'm just trying to move people away, that I have a heart. I want these. He basically would say that many of the folks who are on the street
Need treatment.
that this law, in many ways, is not just penalizing them and saying, well, we're going to fine you until you stop being homeless, but that in a way we have compassion and we're trying to encourage you to go to treatment. You're making a face.
I'm making a face because if you saw any of the footage of our police department going to unhoused folks on the sidewalk, if they walk up to somebody and say, do you want services? That's not a way to get somebody to go into services. But you got to build a relationship with people. They're not offering successful solutions to people.
Jennifer's comment about building relationships reminds me of something Amanda Hall mentioned earlier in this episode. When Amanda was sentenced to prison in Kentucky for drug-related crimes, she felt discarded by a society that couldn't provide the support she needed. And while the Safer Kentucky Act isn't a housing or healthcare policy, Jennifer says the new crime law highlights policy gaps that make it harder to stay both sober and housed.
Our city likes to pat itself on the back for all the people that they get housed. But how many of those people stay housed, keep their apartment, and then go on to be successful? I mean, we got people that have vouchers and can't find a landlord that will accept their voucher because Louisville had an ordinance that you couldn't discriminate against somebody from their source of income. And the state came in and undid that.
Jennifer has walked the path of addiction recovery, including taking Suboxone for 3.5 years. The drug prevents the physical symptoms of withdrawal that can be deadly. For many, it's a game-changer treatment that allows them to get back on their feet. While there are support programs that can help people access medication, she says it's nearly impossible to actually use them while homeless.
You got to be there. They open at 5 a.m. and they close at noon. So you got to get there in the mornings. Our unhoused folks don't usually have phones. They don't know what time it is. They don't know what day it is. They don't have transportation. Public transportation in our city is terrible.
This is how I know that it's 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning because Miss Jennifer's car is going to be here and it's time for my meds. And I know it's 10 o'clock because them doors is open and I can come in harm reduction. And I can come and be safe.
Isaac says he hasn't been cited for living outside. He attributes that to, quote, being smart about being caught in public using the bathroom, drugs, or obviously camping out somewhere. In practice, Jennifer says evading jail time while homeless requires constant vigilance and, in her opinion, a waste of tax dollars.
The Homeless Services Division of the police department, which is a new division, they go around on a daily basis with a huge caravan of sanitation trucks, police officers, and that is some money. It's a lot of money that's just driving around the city to literally chase people around. Camp clearings are known to increase overdoses, period. I have all kinds of data on that. So continuing that cycle and then benefiting from it is astonishing to me. They want to use opioid settlement money to pay for the court process that we, outreach workers and the Coalition for the Homeless, have put together to deal with all of those citations. I used opiates for 20 years. That money could be from my death. It is from a lot of my friends' death. So they want to take $750,000 of that money and put it into a court system that is only there because our state passed HB 5.
HB 5 is the official name for the Safer Kentucky Act. At this point in the conversation, things take a turn that I didn't expect. Usually when I talk with people, my mind conjures how somebody on the opposing side might respond to the person I'm speaking with. As host of Us and Them, my job is to play devil's advocate. So that's what I did. I want to be the countervailing perspective. You just described a lot of care that needs to go to that. Yeah. That costs money.
There's money to jail people. I mean, if people want to know what to do with the millions of dollars of opioid settlement money we're getting, house people.
But that sounds like coddling. That sounds... Wait, just because I'm playing a role here. It's not. I'm not saying. But it's. Wait.
Respectfully, I need to go. Because I know, but Miss Jen, I need to go.
Okay.
I need to go.
You're good.
No, respectfully, thank you for your time, sir.
No, thank you.
Thank you for your time. I will be here for the. No, you didn't. It's just.
Don't go nowhere.
I'm on.
Okay. Will you have Brittany?
The topic gets me riled up, and I don't want to.
Will you have Brittany lock the door behind you? Thank you.
I feel bad, but
it's okay.
But I feel like that's they're.
That's the thing. It's emotional. He's talking about his life. We had 2 unhoused people die last weekend because of hypothermia. Isaac could be next. Somebody just died in our jail again. That's like number 16 or 17 in the past 3 years at our jail. So there's really unsafe places for people to be, not just our sidewalks. It's not safe in our jail. Our jail is usually over capacity all the time.
Where I was going with this coddling part, what's happening in Washington right now with basically attacking programs that are considered wasteful. I feel like I'm hearing voices that they would say that perhaps somebody like Isaac, perhaps somebody like you previously, you made a choice. And that there are things that could be done where you're not going to be on the streets and you have an option to go into treatment and you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do it in a way that is not going to require me and my tax dollars to pay for this.
You want people to pull themselves up by their freaking bootstraps? You got to give them boots. Isaac doesn't have boots. He was outside earlier begging for a pair of pants because he's got on a really thin pair of flannel pajamas. They should be able to do more than just survive. That's why you can't just house somebody. You gotta walk that walk with them. I am honored that I have several big full circle stories that of friends of mine that have gone from me meeting them, like when I talk about him all the time. He knows. His name's Ryan. I met him while I was working at the syringe service program. He was an injecting drug user. He now works at the syringe exchange program. That is amazing to me. It's just a constant, it's communication, it's support. Sometimes it's just listening. If Isaac's having a bad day, sometimes all he needs is to be able to say it to somebody that hears it.
To Jennifer, walking the walk is both a philosophy and a policy mandate. She told me she wants to see longer-term solutions for Louisville's homeless population. Instead of more shelter beds, she says the demand for transitional living is high. where people access shelter for weeks or months at a time while getting off the street. I ask if she knows anybody offering rooms. The Arthur Street Hotel is just a few minutes away.
So Donnie Green runs the hotel. Well, there's several people that run it. Donnie started it, and it has been doing this work in our city for a long, long time. Donnie and I have been friends since I was 17 years old, so we've known each other for a really, really long time.
I was trying to, we can always go to, should we go to your office?
Okay. So, founder, tell me how you founded the Arthur Street Hotel.
Well, I was homeless 23 years ago now, about. And I was out on the streets for about a year and a half. I decided that nobody should have to go through the shit I had to go through to get back into housing.
Donnie's worked in harm reduction for decades. He started out with private donations.
There's a number of folks here in town that believe in what we do, and there is one large organization in town that believes very much in what we do. They came to me into 2021. They came to me and they said, "We see what you're doing works. What do you need?" And I said, "A hotel." And one of the guys said, "I know where a hotel is for sale." They called me 3 days later and said, "Are you serious about doing this? Will you run this hotel? Will you set this up and make sure we run the program that you want to run and see if we can make this successful, because we've got to figure out a solution. Nothing else in this city works." And I said, if you want to put up the money for the hotel, I'll run the hotel. And here we are. That's what this is.
Okay, a couple things. Did you say...
What did it tell you our logo? Because you said the us and them. We have a saying around here that is no one saves us but us.
It's literally on our arms.
Donnie shows off a matching tattoo in typewriter font that stretches the length of his inner forearm. On the same spot, Tiny Heron's tattoo reads, "People can change," surrounded by flowers. When she started working with Donnie, she had a background in healthcare.
And so I would wonder, what does a houseless individual do if they are a diabetic? How do they keep their insulin code? What does a houseless individual do that has cancer and they have to take chemotherapy? I began to wonder all of those things, and then really begin to understand how systems fail people in our city.
The crew at the hotel provides food, shelter, and access to supplies. But it seems their biggest offering is a lack of judgment. People come and go freely. They can ask directly for what they need. And the hotel doesn't force residents to abstain from drugs or enter into treatment. It's a starkly different model from how current Kentucky law handles substance use disorder.
The legislation that exists now is legislation that's existed in the past in other places and has been enforced in the past in other places. To think that struggles that exist within our communities, especially around vulnerable populations, are not interrelated is naive at best, maliciously negligent at worst, and I'm not sure where Mr. Nemus falls in that spectrum. No one chooses to live on the streets. I don't care what they tell you. I don't care what they tell me. No one chooses that. The rules in place in order for some people to stay housed are too onerous for them to follow those rules, so they go back outside. That's not a choice. That's a system that is impeding someone from living in housing for whatever reason. So we can either address that issue, or we decide we can't adjust and everything's in black and white and this is the way it's done, period.
In the previous administration, we had it in place where you couldn't clear an encampment without it being posted for 21 days. Outreach advocates like ourselves were in those encampments every day, working with individuals, trying to get them connected to housing resources, connect whatever the resources that they... I was running
a temporary hotel program within that framework to put people temporarily in hotels so that we could find them. Go on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And it was for the people that were sleeping outside. It was so someone's mother's ashes don't get thrown in a dumpster, because that happened when the city came in and cleared out a woman's encampment.
What I know, wherever I am, whether I'm in Charleston, West Virginia, whether I'm in New York City, whether I'm in Brooklyn, New York, or whether I'm up in the Hudson Valley, New York, the issue is NIMBY, not in my backyard. Are there people around here? It's like, oh my God, there's that riffraff. You're shaking your head, yes, Tiny.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I hear it a lot, the homeless hotel.
Arthur Street vibes is something I hear.
Gives off Arthur
Street
vibes.
Yeah.
So we hear the negative things surrounding what we do here, and that's okay, because I like to ruffle feathers. But what we do here is so very different. The individuals that we have here are individuals that have been banned from every other shelter or organization.
It's kind of interesting you say that. I was with Jennifer Twyman. She had a gentleman, I think his name is Isaac. In many ways, he has the story of being strategic to make sure that he doesn't get caught, et cetera, et cetera. And then eventually, as the reporter, I'm like trying to articulate the devil's advocate part. Well, my taxpayers, I don't want to pay for that. I think in many ways you're coddling these people. He had a really strong reaction, Isaac. And he's like, yeah, I get it. I need to go right now.
Right.
So I wanted to tell you that just because it was a really remarkable moment that I had, where like I'm just trying to kind of put...
It's visceral for people. To say those things is harmful. And you're going to have a visceral response to that. You created a visceral response in a person because you re-traumatized him. And that wasn't your intent. And I understand that. You're used to dealing with folks on an intellectual level. For Isaac, he lives this every fucking day, excuse my language. When I lived on the streets, there was no intellectualizing this. If you'd have said that to me, I'd have probably laid you flat.
And we hear it. Yeah. As advocates, we get told we're enablers all the time. I lost a husband to an overdose in 2018. I'm not going to deny them shelter or food, respect, human dignity.
I tell people all the time, I enable care and love and compassion because I see you in me and I see me in you, and I don't give a shit who you are. Most people don't get the opportunity that I've had, but every single one of these people out here all has that creativity, those ideas, those thoughts, those things that they can contribute to society as a whole. We don't even give them an opportunity because we criminalized them the second they could no longer afford housing, something that should be a basic human right. That's fucked up.
I'm following Donnie Green, and he's the guy who founded the Arthur Street Project. We just went to visit somebody who is camping out kind of not very far from the football field at the University of Louisville. And in the back of his pickup truck, he has several cardboard boxes and then a kind of like a large cloth thermal container. Hey, Donnie.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I just spoke to the people that are going where we're going, so you'd have somebody, and we're about a minute away from where we're headed. So
okay, it's all good.
We pull into the driveway of a home in what looks like a middle-class neighborhood. Donnie comes here 4 or 5 nights a week to deliver essentials: food, water, hand warmers, fuel. Multiple unhoused people are staying in this house and the garage. He introduces me to everyone at the site, including a newcomer with wounds on his hands.
I ended up getting out there in the cold and staying out there for a few hours and catching the frostbite on 4 fingers. So the right hand's healed pretty much, but my left hand is still bad out there. So
the folks that live, some of the other folks that are here, Jorge and is Maria there? Mm-hmm. Jorge's known me for probably 6 years, 7 years.
Yeah. How did you find this place?
Actually through Jorge and Maria. So I'm grateful for them. She's like a mom to me, and he's like a big brother to me. God knew I needed him in my life, so.
I'm Maria. I actually work for the lady that owns the house, and she was kind enough to bring me in off the streets. and my family. So I adopted a boy, and this is my old man, and we have a puppy. There's another family living in the garage. There's 2 more in the house that live here also. She's a great woman.
How did you meet Donnie?
I met Donnie through Jorge.
How did you meet Donnie?
Off the streets. Yeah. I've been living on the streets for about 17 years.
17 years?
Yes, sir. In and out of jail and get kicked out of my mom's and all that stuff. And I got arrested for being bench warrant, not showing up to court. And this time I got arrested, it was for the warrant and all the charges I had. So right now I'm doing a year of probation, went to rehab, and probably have to go back to rehab to get time off my probation.
Well, tell me, how did that happen?
They got me on a no trespassing sign area. Well, ever since then, like wherever I go, they say it's no trespassing, but we don't see the signs up. I guess people take them off, and when I got arrested for the last one, I just got out of.
Do you guys know about this thing called the Safer Kentucky Act, or it was called HB 5?
No, but I do know that they made it illegal to be homeless.
That's what I'm talking about. What do you think of that?
I think it's crock.
Say more.
Yeah, it's a problem that was caused by, I would say, this is my opinion, money hungry. They want the homeless off the streets to make it look prettier for people that come in, for the tourists.
Do you know anybody, or have you ever gotten a citation like from like a law enforcement?
Everybody that I know has been cited for being homeless, except myself. But I've lost all my homes because of it. My last home before I came here was demolished overnight. There was almost 10 people there, and I lost everything. I didn't even get an opportunity to go back and look at it. I lost pictures, mail from my kids, my mom. My mom has passed. She's been gone 15 years now. I don't have anything left from her. My kids, my grandsons, I don't have anything left. I'm still breathing, thank God.
How old are you?
I'm 50. And it's really cold outside, and it's hard for people, my age. It's hard for younger kids. They're kids getting kicked out of their houses. They have nowhere to go. They're on the street. They're lucky if they find somebody that has their head on straight and steers them in the right direction.
The week before, Maria was getting food for herself and others. She says she was greeted by the police.
They were arresting somebody that we knew, and then they stuck around to give us a heads up on loitering. And if we were caught, they would just take us to jail, no questions asked.
I'm imagining that law enforcement may know that you've been homeless before, so they kind of track you and watch your activities?
I've had a pretty rough go about it. I was told I don't know how to be homeless, which who does?
What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how to be homeless. I've never been homeless, per se. Have I been on my own? I've been on my own many years. Many. I haven't always had a place to live. I did live in my truck 4 years ago for about 9 months until it was stolen. And then I had an apartment for a month, and I went to one of the local places that help homeless people, and my apartment was robbed while I was gone, so I just didn't go back. I don't steal. I don't take from. Who takes from a homeless person when you're homeless? I have never met so many people that have just robbed each other. We're out here alone, hungry. We need to be helping each other. And thank God for Donnie and Camille and all the rest of them, because we be going hungry some nights. And cold. It's crazy.
I think I probably need to.
Yeah, you probably need to get it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Have a good night.
You too.
All right.
Charlie's on his
Nice
way
to
over
meet
here.
you.
Nice to meet you.
Do I need to leave extra food?
Yes, please.
Yep, I got it. Right now. Excuse me.
Donnie provides services 7 days a week, often working over 12-hour days. He's deeply committed to his work, but to me, his schedule reflects the sheer volume of people in Louisville whose needs remain unmet. Perhaps there, everyone can agree. Again, Kentucky Representative Jason Nemes.
Look, this stuff is not beautiful. This is not the greatest, safest, non-controversial area of the world. This is hard. This is where policy becomes very difficult. No matter what decision you make, there's good and there's bad. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the institutions of government, the nonprofits, the substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, to come together to help folks. We're trying to help them. If we're wrong, then let's tweak it.
What would you say to Kentuckians who believe that the Safer Kentucky Act has made it harder on homeless people, made their lives harder?
Well, in some ways, that's the point, right? You have to get friction. You have to present friction so they'll get the treatment. If that's what they mean by made their lives harder, then hallelujah. It has not, to my knowledge, made somebody's life harder in a way that is harsh or unloving.
As Representative Nemes talks about the possibility of tweaks to the Safer Kentucky Act, the debate may be far from over. In some places, advocates are pushing back on the recently enacted camping bans. In Morgantown, West Virginia, residents will soon vote on whether to scrap that ban passed last year. You've been listening to Us and Them. Our team for this show was me, Trey Kay, Christina Stella, and Kate Smith. Special thanks to John Bowman at dream.org and Elsie and Lee Harris. Michael Lipton, Tristan Lozow, and Ahmed Solomon wrote and performed the Us and Them show music. Mark Lerner designed our logo. The marvelous people at PRX and West Virginia Public Broadcasting make Us and Them possible. So do grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the CRC Foundation, and the Just Trust. Hey, we'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode. Would you share them with us on our Facebook page or on X, formerly Twitter, at Us Them Podcast? Us and Them was originally developed with assistance from the mentorship program at AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio. We'll see you next time on Us and Them.
Support for this podcast comes from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.